Ancient Egyptian pharaohs were considered to be both divine deities as well as mortal rulers. Throughout the 30-plus dynasties in ancient Egyptian history, it is speculated that some 170 or more rulers reigned over the great land of Egypt during a 3,000-year time span. The throne of Egypt was primarily intended to be succeeded from father to son. However, in many cases, this line of kingship was interrupted by murder, mayhem, and mysterious disappearances. Pharaohs were the god-kings of ancient Egypt who ruled between 3150 BC and 30 BC, when Rome conquered Egypt. Each time a new family took control of the throne, a new kingdom began in the history of this fascinating nation. While rulers often intermarried with daughters, granddaughters, sisters, and brothers to keep the throne within the family, the throne still managed to shift hands multiple times, creating a dynamic and complex pharaonic history. The crown prince began training to become the pharaoh as a young child through a series of lessons. Many of these lessons focused on building physical strength because the pharaoh often fought at the head of his army. Princes went to the royal stables where they learned how to ride and break wild horses. They also ran long foot races to build endurance and went on hunting and fishing expeditions. Inheritance of the throne usually passed from a father to his eldest son, but there were exceptions. Sometimes, a brother would become the next pharaoh after the previous king's dead if there was no son to inherit. If the only heir was a woman, her husband could become the next pharaoh. Sometimes, a high official became pharaoh after the previous king's death. Some records state that some crown princes, who outlived their father, did not become pharaoh, but the reason for this is not known. A new pharaoh always attended the burial of his/her predecessor, and the coronation of a new pharaoh began on the first day of a new season. During many dynasties, a new pharaoh's coronation began after the death of his/her predecessor. In some dynasties, the old pharaoh presided over his/her successor's coronation before his/her death. The coronation was not a single event, but a collection of ceremonies and festivals that could last an entire year. For this reason, the coronation year was not counted as part of the years a king reigned. The first year of a reign began after the coronation ended. After becoming pharaoh, the king received 4 new names besides his/her birth name. The first name was the Horus name, which scribes wrote inside a sarek. The Nebti name showed the pharaoh had the protection of the patron goddesses of the 2 lands, and the pharaoh's rule of both lands. The golden Horus name emphasized the pharaoh's divinity. Scribes wrote the final 2 names inside cartouches. The praenomen was the pharaoh's coronation name and the one people knew him/her by in antiquity. The nomen was the pharaoh's given name, and it is the name scholars use today with a numeral added if necessary. Mummification and burial held an important place in Egyptian life. The Egyptians believed the body's preservation guaranteed the soul's survival in the afterlife. The pharaoh began building his/her tomb soon after assuming the throne. The locations and types of tombs built changed over time, and when the country's capital moved, tombs contained decorations of the pharaoh's journey in the afterlife and texts from the Book of the Dead. The earliest pharaonic tombs are the mastaba tombs made of mud brick. Scholars found these tombs in some of the oldest cemeteries near the ancient capitals. See capital list below. Mastabas, like all ancient Egyptian cemeteries, were on the Nile's west bank, which was the realm of the dead. Pyramids were elaborations of the mastaba design made of stone. The first was the step pyramid of Djoser, which Imhotep designed. Architects planned the pyramids and included a mortuary temple and other royal tombs in the complex. The Great Pyramid of Khufu at Giza is the greatest example of this type of tomb. Later pharaohs saw that grave robbers broke into the earlier tombs, so they made secret rock-cut tombs. The area where they built these tombs is now called the Valley of the Kings. Some tombs contained several chambers and more than one ruler. Pharaohs received elaborate burials containing a wide variety of goods. At first, Priests buried pharaohs with items like clothes, furniture, games, and jewelry. During the 19th dynasty, priests began burying them with items made for the afterlife. An example of this are the clay shabti figurines made to serve the pharaoh. Priests placed food, oil, and dishes in the tombs to nourish the king in the afterlife.